join us for an exciting investigation of the ongoing excavation site of Aquinum, a sprawling area of over 200 acres during its 2020 campaign with Roma Sotterranea. And thanks to the hospitality of the city of Castellcielo and Mayor Gianni Fantaccione and the University of Salento and its professor Giuseppe Ceraldo, we can share some special access and insights into this historic city. The city was founded by the Volscians, an Italic tribe that once thrived just south of Lazio. Aquinum was located along the Via Latina that runs right through the site. Aquinum, whose name refers to the abundance of natural springs, was located just 76 miles from Rome. Rome conquered the site in the 4th century BC, and it developed into a rich commercial site, one of the main cities between Rome and Capua, along the important Via Latina. It was a municipium by the late Republic and became a colonia under the Triumvirate. Possibly both the satirist Juvenal and the emperor Pescennius Niger were born here. Certainly the site took on a monumental appearance in the imperial period, with baths, a theater, and an amphitheater. A Christian diocese was established by 450, and nearby, in the 13th century, was born St. Thomas Aquinas of Aquinum. This year, the investigation in Aquinum focused on the theater. It's absolutely spectacular. You can enjoy the architecture, Opus Reticulatum work. And as you walk around the site, you realize that the Scene Franz was right over here, still to be excavated, the remains of, and behind it runs the Via Latina of antiquity and still today. So because this site is so large, 100 hectares, over 220 acres, we imagine then, of course, that the Via Latina is here where the cars pass by. Beyond it is still the city center, and that means the Via Latina is passing right through the heart of the city. Such an impressive site, such a large site, and it has yielded some incredible discoveries. It's really hard to think of what other site of the Roman age has been discovered with this much intact, an entire city, virtually unknown until the first excavations about 12 years ago. At this meeting point of the Decumanus and the Cardo, you have the remains of a massive temple, and here you have the apse of that temple, preserved because it was converted into a church of St. Mary. This empty space right here represents the point where the large external blocks were spoliated in later times. Beyond the remains of the temple, you have what is left of a gigantic theater. And this theater, according to the most recent study and excavations, has revealed it to be a structure with a diameter of 90 meters. And right behind the Scene Franz, still to be excavated, you have cars still passing by right on top of the remains of the ancient Via Latina. But truly, there's a lot more to be discovered from this theater. Recent excavations have revealed not just the earlier layers of the theater, but also the remains of the vaulting system, some architectural features, and even amidst the collapsed vaults, the remains of some of the seating. This year's excavation season focused on this point of the theater, with future plans to expand and to extend all the way to the area of the Scene Franz. Behind the large theater, you have the remains of a large portico system. And right here you can see the extent of that portico system with this drainage channel still in situ. At this point that you have the area of discovery of the impressive series of marble portraits, one of a colossal head of Augustus, another one that has been potentially identified as a portrait of Julius Caesar.
It's in this particular juncture, the excavation revealed that the travertine bases that we see here encroaching upon the confines of the street are actually the fullest extent, the fullest extension of the theater. So with this excavation, it's been able to determine that the theater was much larger than originally thought. Like any good theater, this one had an awning system, the velarium, and these blocks found in the road excavation behind the theater are attributed to that system where you would have the beams of wood for the awning attached to these blocks, one by one. You have this impressive road system, and beneath it there's a very large, very deep sewer line system, and that's currently the subject of investigation by Roma Subterranea.
In the site of Aquinum, in collaboration with the Università del Salento, we started an activity obviously underground, and we are excavating a shaft, and we are mapping as well all the underground little galleries that are linked to the hydraulic system of the ancient city.
Siamo all'interno dell'area archeologica di Aquinum.
Besides these investigations with Roma Sotterranea, we've been concentrating in the area of the bath complex, where they've recently received a series of roofs which will protect the precious marble and mosaics, as well as allow it to be visited by the general public. Indeed, the bath complex is the real standout feature of the site today. Let's explore now the portico system and the two bathing facilities designated the men's facilities and the women's facilities, the baths of Aquinum. You have the preserved outer portico in the time of Hadrian, shaved down here and forgotten, only to be excavated, is the original smaller portico that's Augustan in date. And then we have these impressive pavonozzetto columns that are found. We don't know what building they belong to, but they were deposited here ready to be taken away and transported to be recycled, and that just never happened. A great discovery at the site of Aquinum. Impressive work going on here at the site of Aquinum with newly installed roof systems over the two bathing facility areas. And in the distance, the open green space then represents the remains of the palestra attached to the bathing facilities once lined with porticos. Great conservation work done here. They've exposed a lot of the site of Aquinum. Actually, they're just scratching the surface, but of course they're preserving as they go along, and you have a real investment in preserving this site with the installation of these non-invasive coverings, very impressive, preserving a whole series of inscriptions and mosaics that belong both to the men and women bath complexes. These protective coverings don't just preserve the number of precious mosaics uncovered, it also gives us a sense of the original volume of the bath complex here in Aquinum. Brand new roof is being installed this year over the massive large baths with beautifully preserved frigidarium spaces, still in part lined with marble. Secondary added frigidarium tub. But who financed this decoration? Well, we know from this inscription that's found in this hall that was financed by Marcus Vecchius, the duoweir. It also included figural mosaics such as this rare rhinoceros. Here is a really impressive latrine. Most of the marble paneling that you see for sitting down and using the facilities are original. And of course you have this great, well-preserved black and white mosaic, figural depictions, so impressive.
Have our stepping stones here going across the street, just like we see in Pompeii, other well-preserved cities of the ancient Roman world. And we're walking along behind the large terme, designated as the male bath complex, and walking our way over to the female bathing complex. One next to another. Both, of course, are going to be distinct one from another. So we proceed from the Frigidarium space to the Caldarium spaces. We see some of the hypocaust system preserved here. The sospensure would have elevated the floor, and then you have in this area here the praefurnia. They are the furnaces with slave corridors that are stoking the fires for the bathers above and inside. Making our way into the women's bathing facilities, here is the latrine, and passing into a recently covered space with a beautifully preserved mosaic floor with an intact inscription. The large hall of the Frigidarium with marble-lined Frigidarium pool on one side, still with the marble intact, and on the opposite side, another pool, less well preserved, but once lined with marble as well. This portion of the female baths, lined with brick facing, is a 3rd century addition, added to 2nd century additions, and finally back to the Augustan original complex. The baths, ever popular, ever expanded to accommodate more bathers, up to 1,000 bathers in a day.
Aquinum is such an expansive site. In so many fields around over 200 acres, there are bits and pieces of great monumentality still to document, still to learn about. You can visit the site. You can see the excavation as it goes on year by year. And of course, there are plenty of opportunities to look at the inscriptional evidence, and there's even a fantastic new didactic museum that allows you to explore the past. This incredible site with wonderful reconstructions. It's a way to get to know Aquinum through the centuries. Ancient Rome Live would like to thank once again the Municipium of Castelcielo and Professor Giuseppe Ceraudo and the University of Salento, and Roma Sotterranea for an incredible opportunity. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Ancient Rome Live. We already have hundreds of videos, exclusive looks at the history of Rome and throughout the empire. And of course, join us on our ongoing adventure down the Via Appia in 8 unique episodes. We'll see you in Rome.